You're ready, good.
Have you ever wondered what it would be like if you were blind, if one day you were born without your most important sense? You would have to learn Braille, the blind language, which used your sense of touch to replace sight. If you could understand it, maybe life wouldn't be so hard. You could you might be able to get through high school, possibly even through higher education, maybe have a proper job and be able to function in society. That, of course, is assuming you live in a first world country. In most third world countries, such as Thailand, this wouldn't be possible. Growing up blind in Thailand would seem fairly promising up until you get through to middle school. Teachers and the schools are willing to give special education to blind kids, teach their own alphabet, and teach them their numbers. Up to high school, though, nobody would teach them their own advanced system of math, science, and language. So, what's the solution? Every blind student goes into high school with the rest of the people. Every day they go into school, into a classroom where the only thing they understand is the voice of a teacher shouting over 50 other students. Each day they come home with a homework they couldn't read, a book they couldn't see, and in a language they can't comprehend. Without education, they can only turn to minimum wage jobs, but with their handicap, who would hire blind people? In this situation, not even the brightest or the smartest or the most hardworking can overcome this spiral into poverty. National census estimates that over 60% of blind people end up dropping out of high school into, and even larger numbers are estimated to go into unemployment and poverty later in life. Blindness is not a mental handicap that prevents productivity. With some support, we can help bring out the talent within the blind community and build a strong foundation for their future.
Catherine.
Imagine what it's like feeling sick. You have a cough, a fever, and constant headaches. You feel weak all the time and you don't want to go to work. If the symptoms persist for a while, you'll go visit the doctor. Maybe the doctor will prescribe you some medicine, but if you don't have a consistent income, you can't afford the treatment regimen that they prescribe you. So in countries like rural India, or in places like rural India, doctors who treat the urban poor regularly will offer you a small portion of your treatment regimen for a lower price, something that you can afford with your inconsistent income. But after a while, you can't afford the medicine anymore, and the symptoms reappear. What are you supposed to do then? For over 8 years, a woman named Meena in rural India had this problem. She visited the doctor multiple times, and each time she was given a little bit of the treatment regimen for TB. The first time she went to the doctor, they told her that she had been cured of TB, but after a few months, she came back with even worse symptoms. After a while, the medicine wouldn't even treat her anymore, and the doctors told her that it wasn't even worth it to test for multi-drug resistant TB because the hospital there didn't have the treatment facilities available to treat that kind of disease. Her doctor, in addition, only had a bachelor's degree in traditional Indian medicine and surgery, something that isn't really applicable to her type of disease. This is a problem in rural India because doctors tend to focus on short-term relief for people's diseases rather than treating them, which in the long run causes more problems because even people are never fully treated in their diseases, and their health continues to deteriorate. After a while, Nina's family, after she died, Nina's family was deep in debt and they couldn't dig themselves out. So my idea is to help the rural poor in India find better treatment facilities and improve the healthcare system in India so that doctors would pay more attention to their patients and carefully diagnose them and make sure that their treatment is completed.
Hi everyone, my name is Ben Zatanik, and I'm here to talk to you about the emergency response times in urban America. Emergency response times of urban emergency response personnel are appalling. Before the city of Detroit declared bankruptcy last month, they reported that their average police response time in the city was 58 minutes. That's over 5 times the national average. Could you imagine waiting if there was a shooting outside your house for an hour for police to show up? If you were a loved one were to have a heart attack, could you imagine waiting an hour for the EMTs to come? Americans are becoming increasingly unhealthy and overweight in recent years. Fast food restaurants are popping up everywhere. And cardiovascular disease has become the #1 killer of otherwise healthy adults in the country. Physical education and activity is something essentially unheard of in corporate America. With people working 60 hours a week while eating Big Macs every day and downing supersized Cokes, it's no wonder that heart attacks are so common among 50-something American men. If you or a loved one were to be struck with a heart attack, wouldn't you want paramedics to show up as soon as possible? So it's taking far too long for these emergency responders to come and arrive on scene. Regardless of how much traffic is on the streets or how many other 911 calls they receive, like every citizen who pays taxes deserves to have these services available to them. Just because there's some other issue out in the city doesn't mean that this person doesn't deserve treatment. Studies have shown that most successful defibrillator shocks are given on average about 5.5 minutes after the 911 call is placed. With that data in mind, one of 2 things needs to happen. Either paramedics need to be on scene in 5.5 minutes, or someone who's CPR certified needs to intervene as soon as possible. Many cities across the nation don't even have an official way of documenting their emergency response times. In the cities that do, they only document the time between when the 911 call is placed and when they arrive on the scene. If they were to get a call to somewhere like a shopping mall or a sporting event, it could take an extra 15-20 minutes for the paramedics to find their patient, and that's unacceptable. If local governments want to improve public faith in the emergency response system, they need to find out some way of documenting this time so that the public is aware of it. As an EMT myself, I have seen firsthand how inefficient the system can be, and it's totally unacceptable. In 2005, there was a 64-year-old baggage worker who worked at Los Angeles International Airport, and he collapsed on the job. 911 was called, and on paper, they arrived in 7 minutes, but they didn't get to his side to help him for nearly half an hour, and he died. This is unacceptable. On paper, it seems that they did everything right and they should have been able to save him, but when they take half an hour to get to his side, there's far less chance of him being able to survive. We need to make sure that this doesn't happen to anybody else in this country. Thank you.